Go.
Okay. Yeah. So welcome. It's a very beautiful, nice evening here in Waikkal. It's actually Puttalam district, very close to Nigambu. As you can see, it's a lovely evening. In the this is a kind of resort hotel called Ranweli.
I'm just
I came
over
here.
here.
Yes, Ranweli hotel, Ranweli called Ranweli.
I think it's holiday villages.
Holiday village. It's a lovely like a resort. This is the Indian Ocean. We just finished our, we watching the sunset, but sun is already gone. But still, it's a lot of fun. But the most important thing here, I'm trying to introduce you a very special person, special guest who has just arrived with his family, lovely young family from Canada, Dr. Michael Fernando.
Hello.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So I want to actually introduce Dr. Michael Fernando very quickly because we have been kind of knowing each other from 2002. We first met in Sweden in a youth hostel, and then I was a student that time in Spain, so he came to visit me in Spain in 2003. Then we met several times in England. He was living that time as a student, and we became family friends. So I met his mother and father and his brother, and all of us kind of traveled together and met also several times in England as well as in Sri Lanka. Now he's in Canada with his lovely family, and so he's back on holiday. So I'm meeting him and just to catch up. So Michael,
Good to see you again.
the idea of this video is to kind of have a kind of follow up of our history as well as some current ideas for the future.
Yeah.
So very quickly introduce yourself, maybe also your family.
So I'm Michael. Like I said, I did meet Chaminda in Sweden in a youth hostel before I was doing anything really.
It was actually also ship, right? Old
It was
ship.
very cheap, yeah.
Ship. It
Oh,
was a ship.
it was a ship.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was very cheap.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then I think what happened. This is quite common actually. I think I recognized you as Sri Lankan immediately.
You know how I recognized that?
how-
Even before I see you.
The skin or something?
No.
No.
When I entered there,
Yeah.
you were not there. So I think you were sleeping in the first
Yeah.
top bed,
Yeah.
and there was a book of Arthur C. Clarke. It was
Oh.
like lying on the book on the bed.
Right.
So I was thinking, who's this guy reading Arthur C. Clarke? He's writing Odyssey or something.
Right.
So then once you came, then I talked to you, and then you said you are originally from Sri Lanka.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then we exchanged details, and this was only very shortly after Google. I think
Okay.
I only had a Yahoo address
yeah,
then,
Yeah.
so it was very uncommon to stay in touch with people. I think via email, but that's what we did. I think email and maybe text, and then. That was Sweden, and then I finished my medical degree. But then, like you say, you were in England a few times, and yeah, you came with me for the marathon.
Yeah, but you came to Spain.
I came to Spain. That's right. Yeah, you invited me, and then we went, and that was my first time to Spain, and we really enjoyed that. And then
You were the Czech Republic also. Then I had my friend.
yeah,
Joy.
that's it. Yeah, you've got a very good memory for this. And she was Canadian,
Yeah,
actually.
right.
Yeah.
Joy,
Yeah, so that was a very interesting experience because, I wasn't much of a traveller at that point, but then I had been to Spain and Czech Republic, and then I think you got friends with my family, and then so that made us a little bit more connected. But and then shortly afterwards, I was in Sri Lanka again, and then.
You want to introduce your daughter?
Oh, Sinead, come here. Do you want to be on the camera? Oh, no, that's okay.
But I'll take some pictures
Yeah,
later.
okay. And then that was a very interesting time because the tsunami happened during the visit, and it was through Chaminda's connections that I actually got to see the worst impacted areas. Without you, I wouldn't have seen that.
But also that's also important thing because Michael was volunteer that time, and maybe he's the first kind of British trained, not fully qualified, but still finally a medical student, voluntarily went to East.
Yeah.
East, I think one of first, kind of foreign national to help Sri Lanka in 2004.
Yeah, that's right. And it was interesting for me because it was a Tamil area as well.
Exactly.
And even my family have never been to Ampara actually.
I have never been also.
Oh, okay,
I have
yeah,
never been,
yeah. So it was even if there wasn't a tsunami, I think my family would have been a bit nervous.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience for me.
Quickly, now what you are doing professionally?
Yeah. Now I'm a family doctor and an emergency doctor in Canada. My family, young family, my wife's Canadian. I met in England.
The original Canadian.
Original Canadian, yeah.
The disadvantageous one, right?
Yes,
The
yeah.
migrants.
A lot of people, when I come to Sri Lanka, say, "Where do you live? How did you get there?" And I tell them, "I met a Canadian." So that's why I'm in Canada, because I married a Canadian. In England, in London, she convinced me that Canada was the best place to live. So I went to Canada, and it's true, it is the best. I personally think it's a very good place to live.
But also now I want to also introduce, like you were very keen on studies. You
Yeah.
did very well in your studies. I
Yeah.
remember you did a master's, and can you also explain about that?
Yeah, I did a master's in public health.
Right.
That was in England.
I give you a reference later.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, wow, you're really remembering all the things.
But that was University of London?
Yeah, Imperial College,
Imperial College, yeah.
which is no longer University of London. It's its own
Okay.
university now.
And your bachelor's MBBS from there?
Queen Mary
Oh, okay.
and Westfield University.
Right.
Yeah. So
But
that's
then still you had to do something to qualify in Canada, right?
yeah, residency in northern British Columbia. So that's postgraduate training.
Okay.
So my family moved. Well, actually, at that point, it was just me and Patty. We moved to Canada to be closer to her parents, but then we ended up moving to the other side of Canada, which ended up being further from her parents.
Okay.
So, but luckily Patty went along with it, and so eventually it ended up being a very good experience, because it's a very remote area of Canada, an area that a lot of people in Canada never get to.
Okay.
So we got to see some very remote communities. Patty got to do some work in a very remote community with the elections.
I was also kind of poured into that Patty's work, because I remember she was very active in human rights and
Yes.
helping migrants, asylum seekers, and also something in
Yeah.
England. So how?
So she was an immigration lawyer in England, but she specialised in cases that involved human rights law, trafficking, asylum cases. A lot of the law was like case law, so it was very.
I should do a separate interview with Patty after this one.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And so when she came to Canada, she decided to do the call to the bar in Ontario. So then she did that. And then around that time we had our baby, and so we just, our priority is family life now. We built a house, and we live in the country, and so Patty's looking after our daughter.
How large is the size of your land?
It's 9 acres,
Oh my God!
which
I
is
remember you one apartment.
Yeah.
One apartment in London.
yeah. I think our closet is as big as some of our bedrooms in England. So it's, for me, I'm very lucky because
Okay.
because I have a frame of reference,
Okay.
and the frame of reference is the tiny apartments that we had in England, and so I am constantly grateful.
Okay.
That's the best place, the best thing to be is constantly grateful for what we have, because you can always get envious of bigger houses, more houses, but we're really fortunate to be where we are. Yeah.
Okay. So what about like your plans? You were just talking about some entrepreneurship. So,
Yeah, I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I had
Only one in your family.
Maybe, and I think actually North America really encourages entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You know, my first entrepreneurship venture didn't work out, but I got a lot of training
Okay.
from it. Sorry, I might just put this on. Is that okay? I'll just
That's okay.
ignore
That's
it.
okay. That's okay. Very old-fashioned phone.
Oh, yeah.
Show that this is the very qualified international doctor's phone.
It's the Sri Lankan phone. Yeah, it's the Sri Lankan phone.
Okay.
So, yeah. So.
And it's very interesting because the phone I'm having is iPhone 6.
Oh.
I'm very upset because it's very old now. It's 6 because you have 11
Oh.
or 12.
Oh.
You are kind of making me
Extreme.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Canada is very good for entrepreneurship, very encouraging. and so my first venture was a medical safety device. I learnt a lot. I wasted a lot of money, but I did. In a way, I got a lot of training. I got a free MBA. Well, actually, it wasn't free. It cost me thousands of dollars. But and then that didn't discourage me. I decided to do a business with Patty. So we're still working on the product now, but it's going to be an ethically sourced shirt business. And Patty's also working on another business as well. Maybe in your interview you can talk about that. Actually, two businesses. So now we're an entrepreneurship family. Yeah.
But now I think one key strength, but I kind of see in you, you have been very international in terms of your international multidisciplinary entrepreneur, a person from Sri Lankan background originally.
Yeah.
You born also right in England. Studied here. Now you are in Canada. You have traveled other places. So any kind of messages or experience or shared learning for younger people? Some cultural, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just.
Now maybe I'll make it more kind of simple. Now,
Yeah.
you wanted to be a doctor, and I am sure you became one successful one in terms of your qualifications and
Yeah.
achievements, and also your practice.
Okay.
So now, being a doctor, did it help in your life and in terms of your profession?
Yeah, I think it was my. I think what happens is, so Chris Hadfield, the astronaut, he talks about this. His goal was to walk on the moon, and so he had the big goal decided at the beginning, and that determined all of the small decisions that he had to make up to the goal. He never got to walk on the moon, but he was the commander of the space station for I think over a year.
Right.
So same with me. I decided to be a doctor, and that determined all of the decisions up to being a doctor. And then when we decided to move to Canada and set up a practice there, that determined all of the decisions up until that point. And so now we're at another stage in our lives. We've decided to be successful business people. So
Okay, now my next maybe question, or not really question for you, your advice to entrepreneurs, younger ones who want to start business, who even fail several times. What is your thought?
I think I think failure is part of the process. I still don't think I have not yet been a successful business person yet.
You don't give up.
But no, I think I'm following my interest rather than following a financial goal. I think if you follow your interests, then and your curiosity, then even the failures are still enjoyable. You get something from it. So if you are successful in a financial sense, then that's a bonus. But if you're just following your curiosity, then you can never fail because you've achieved what you set out to initially do. So that's my advice.
Final question due to lack of time and it's getting dark. Now, also in terms of your multicultural experience,
Oh gosh.
Sri Lanka, Canada, I asked this question of practically in detail.
Yeah.
But your kind of experience or your learning as a person who lives in at least two continents, but also different experience in different countries. For younger people, maybe for Sri Lankans, any value in that? Is it a burden or is it a value? Or?
Oh, it's a massive value. Yeah, I work in a very white area. Probably the most. It's a very religiously conservative area, and it's very. It's like the Canadian Deep South. Actually, is how it's described. And so, one of my patients recently told me he's a kind of a biker, like a big white dude, and he heard, oh, I've got a new doctor, I'm going to meet him, and he said he walked in and he talked to me with this English accent. Hello, how are you? And then he was South Asian, and I couldn't understand what was going on. This South Asian guy with an English accent in the middle of southern Canada. What's happening? And I thought, to me, this is totally normal. This is just part of life. And so, to me, I'm very open about new experiences, and I suggest people be open about these receiving them and also giving them. I think it's just in my nature. For some people it isn't, but I think it's worth to develop that nature if you can.
Okay, all the best, Michael, for your future ventures and also stay here in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chaminda.